Okay, so what is a project in general? The definition of project. Let us understand that first. It is a temporary endeavor. This project is not like continuously running process. It is something which is very specific and time bound. So that is what is temporary endeavor, which is aimed to change in team, organization or society. So every project has some clear-cut objectives. Means we have to achieve something like infrastructural projects. We have to build a bridge, we have to have sea link, we have something like metros, metro rail line, bullet train. So these are all construction projects which are bringing infrastructural changes. So objective is very clear in most of the project. Or if you are developing some software, you want to make the automation in the process. In some routine manual work, we want to bring in computerization, digitization and automation. So in that is a clear-cut objective in every project, right? Even societal level, suppose you are delivering some cleanliness or cleaning of sea beaches or some specific areas. So these are some projects where to handle which are temporary endeavor. That is very important aspect of it. Now let's understand some example of it. So construction of any bridge, aircraft, spacecraft, which are very specific, like Chandrayaan. We are making Chandrayaan and there are failures, then there are further Chandrayaan 1, 2, 3 and finally we succeeded. So this is all different phases through which the project has gone through and finally we succeeded. So it is a temporary endeavor. Chandrayaan 1 was one endeavor, 2 was the next, 3. So it is gone through that all failures and then learning and the learning and improvisation. So it is also a part of the process as a project we look at it. Launching of new product, suppose company wants product launching, so the campaigning, the marketing processes, the advertisement process, all those things will come as a project for the company. Like that there are many examples, as I already mentioned few. When you talk about IT contest, there are most of the time the digitization, or we call it as a process re-engineering for digitization, is a IT project. For example, if you think of banking, simple banking, previously we used to go to bank and do all transactions. Now it is become completely app based. You can have a mobile app or web app through which we can do it at your terminal 24/7 any point of time. This is the complete revolution which brought through IT project. Okay, so this is the broad idea about the project. Now when you go into the more aspects of projects, there are various characteristics. All may not be applicable in one project, but few of them may be applicable. But these are some unique characteristics or some specific factors which are observed in any projects. First, it is non-repetitive, one-time exercise or endeavor, which use a word in the definition. So even though if you feel that we are repeatedly producing different types of ships or aircraft, it becomes repeatable. But if you feel that process is repeatable, but every aircraft or shipbuilding itself is a project, because various technical parameters, various product related specification may differ from one aircraft to another aircraft. So it becomes project, right? Then it has to be unique. It is something unique. It's produce some deliverables, outcomes. So we can understand that when you talk about deliverables, project boundaries, outcomes, that is to be supposed to be very clear and unique in case of any project. Okay, so which are initially defined, well defined. So purpose of the project, the goal of the project, respective stakeholders, the risk, all these things are come under defining all boundaries and scopes. Then there we can have single objective that must be accomplished, which has may change the project business process, complete process business. We can reinvent through that project and we want to renew the entire operations of that business. Okay, that can be a single objective. Like that infrastructure project, the objective is to bring in the ease of transportation. That can be an objective. So every project has got a very unique and single objective. Now project has the scope, schedule, planning. So creates we have time planning. It is to be first of all well defined in terms of beginning of the project and the end of the project date. Time frame. Unless we define our time frame, how we can track the project, how we can plan for the resources. So all this will come under the time planning, scope planning, scheduling. That is what important characteristic. And as we already discussed about creating something new, like infrastructure projects, suppose you are creating metro rail line. It is something new for the city, and it is bringing huge change in the transportation system. It's giving convenience to the people in the city. So that is what is the objective. So all these are the aspects which are called characteristics of the projects. Once understanding the definition of project and what are the characteristics of project, now let us get into the managing it. So what are the factors that we have to understand as a manager? First, anything we begin is to be defining the project scope. That is the starting point. The project itself should be very clear on day one before we start actual development cycle. What is the scope of the project? What are the limitations? What are the boundaries? Or what clear objectives that we are trying to meet through this? So that is what is important. Requirements, user requirement, software requirements, business requirements, all those to be very specifically clear as a manager. You should be well versed with all these elements. And then what are the deliverables? That is outcomes. It is as simple as producing the printout of the bill or passbook, or it can be like booking my cab journey and billing it, or financial transactions. All these are my deliverables, correct, in that particular project. Once you are clear with the scope and well-defined project scope, then you have to give or identify achievable objectives. Clear and achievable objectives. Once you are clear about achievements with the given scope and given budget and the time frame, we have to establish all the planning. After establishing all this, we have to define all the planning as a manager. Okay, so this is very clear at the before you start development cycle. Once the development cycle begin, project development cycle begin, or actual development process begin, now next task of manager is to balancing all different resources, maybe human resource, material cash flow, material flow, machinery maintenance, machinery operations, and all the resources that comes under management. Doing this, you have to ensure simultaneously the quality norms, quality standards as per the project requirements. It can be followed as per the international standard or some framework, international framework. So we have to ensure all those. We have to ensure the scope is, we are not moving away from the scope of the project at any point of time. So we have to keep track of it as a manager. We have to keep a track time factor as well as budgetary cost, because these are the major concern for top management. We are on the track as per the given time frame and as per the given budget. That is the manager's important role or task. As I have already mentioned here in the quality, we have to follow some international frameworks. So adapting to that frameworks, understanding, elaborating, we have to train some people to match with this framework, and that is what is a task of manager. Accordingly, we have to plan as per the given standards or frameworks. We have to plan the entire project development cycle, and simultaneously we have to ensure all stakeholders are given due importance. Maybe end user, maybe project sponsors, or maybe ultimately we can say the beneficiaries of these projects. All those we have to take into consideration when you are managing the projects. So these are respective elements we should keep in mind when you are managing the project. Now, as a manager, project manager, which are the knowledge areas you must focus? In fact, this particular course is going to elaborate all these elements in subsequent chapters in detail. In this unit, we are just being brief in small para. So I am not going to spend time elaborating all things in this particular chapter because we are going into the details of it in the subsequent chapter. So I will request you to go through the brief para definition and understanding about this knowledge area, integration, scope management, time management, and all those things, right? After understanding the project management as a definition and the different aspect of it, always you have to keep in mind some dark side of the project, the failures. Now, what are the causes of the failures or the reasons of failure that we should be aware of so that you can take extra precautions to avoid such reasons of failures and you will make the project successful smoothly. Now, major cause of the failure is people are not clear about their objectives and their final purpose of the project. Some of the aspects are not considered or not taken into their understanding, and then they miss out, and then the project fails. Maybe technical aspect, maybe personal aspect, maybe some financial aspects. So that is very, very important. Time frame exceeds. Time is very important asset. Every project is bounded one. As in the definition, it is a temporary endeavor. So the time we have to take into consideration when you are developing any project. So because with the time your cost, your frustration, your interest may be lost. So we have to keep strong and stringent check on the project tracking so that it is in align with our project planning, so that it will never be exceeded to the limit and ultimately leads to failure. Shortage of resources. What are the resources to run the project? Maybe material resource, maybe manpower, maybe money, maybe machinery shortage, something like that. So these resources may sometimes create a constraint and leads to the project failures. Shortage of budget. You may stuck with the funds. The top management is not clearing the funds, and without funds you cannot keep track of the project. You can keep the development process smoothly happening, and then your project stuck up, you exceed the time frame, you exceed the budget, and everything go haywire and the project failure happens. Improper planning. This is management aspect, very important. You should have perfect planning and perfect tracking. From the management point of view, this is the basics what we have to handle, so that it should not go exceeding in terms of time and the cost. Otherwise, then ultimately you will lose the support from top management and then the project fails. The next point is that only. Top management or stakeholder take off the interest or support. If the time frame itself is you are prolonged so much, now the importance of the objective for which the project is supposed to be developed or project is supposed to be constructed, that itself lost, and then project remain completely fail, is it because that objective itself is gone. So that is why top management or stakeholder will take off the interest and that project fails. So most important as a manager perspective, time frame and the cost. These are the two important we can say factors that we are to very much keep in control as a manager.